My name is Rhiannon and I'll be interviewing my friend Katie O'Hagan today for my People to People project. She's actually from Scotland, and let's start. Okay, thanks for joining me today, Katie. To start off, tell the viewers a bit about yourself.
My name's Katie O'Hagan. I'm from Scotland, the very north of Scotland. I'm an artist, and that's really it. That's my life.
Okay. First question, where did you grow up in Scotland?
I grew up in England, in a county called Sutherland, which is the largest county, I believe, in the UK, and it has the smallest population. It's really remote, and there's a lot of single lane roads and sheep and things like that. Not a lot to do, but it's very beautiful.
Would you mind showing us out on the map?
Sure. This is John O'Groats, which is officially, I believe, the most northerly part of the UK, and the sponsored races and bike races and walks and all the rest of it will happen frequently from Land's End down here at the tip of England to John O'Groats up here, which is like the greatest span between 2 points in the UK. And so that's not far from where I grew up. I actually grew up kind of right in the middle there, and that's a little village called Strathy. I spent some time in the nearby Thurso here, and that's where the ferry goes to Orkney and Shetland, and it's about, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 people. It's still fairly small. And the village that I grew up in is very, very teeny. There was probably only a couple of hundred people there.
What was it like to grow up there?
It was, it's a very unique place. There's some unique characters in a small remote place like that, which made it quite interesting. My dad had a pub, and so it was kind of the central hub of the area. And so if anything was happening at all, it was happening usually under our roof. And that could get a little crazy being a teenager. And I thought at the time, it was, boring, and I would rather be anywhere else. But now when I go back, I realize I was very lucky to grow up there. And it was a fairly safe and very beautiful place.
That's cool. Okay. How have you found America to be different from Scotland?
America's different in a lot of ways. Your chocolate isn't as good, which was a big blow when I first came over here. But I've found my sources now that I can still get it when I need to. But also, there's a lot of differences. I think that coming from where I was, which was so remote, going to a big city like New York is about as different as you can get. And I think Americans are, they're more optimistic, I want to say, generally speaking. I think there's that great British dry sense of humor. They're a little less upbeat sometimes, although it's complicated, I suppose, because there's a lot of similarities, but the differences sometimes take some time to appear. But yeah. I actually noticed the very first thing that was different was just a little thing, but when I came over in '92 for the first time, and I taught at a summer camp, and I met all the American counselors, and I was very excited about it. I've been looking forward to it for years. I'd always wanted to come over here. And then I noticed I was a little thrown off, because when the American counselors, when I would be chatting and we'd be getting to know each other, and I'd say something that they thought was funny, they would say, "Oh, that's really funny," or "That's so funny." And I didn't know how to react to that, because back home, at least then, I don't know how it is now, but we're kind of sarcastic nation, and if somebody was to say to you, "That's really funny," they really mean the opposite. Like, there's no way you would say that if something actually was funny. So little things like that, I didn't take offense exactly, I just thought, oh, this is confusing. So some of the terminology is a little different.
Ah, okay. To remember that. What was your favorite food growing up? Do you still like it?
Favorite food, which is not really food, is candy. All types of chocolate and candy, which is, you get a great selection over there. And I sound like I'm obsessed with candy, I kind of am. And so there was that, and also I did eat haggis. I like haggis, and I can't really find that over here very often, but that was a favourite. It sounds like a cliche, a Scottish person liking haggis, but I really did. And you go to the fish and chip shop and get it deep fried, along with other great things at the fish and chip shop, like deep fried white pudding as well, black pudding, king rib, try that, deep fried. It's all dipped in batter and then just thrown in one big trough of oil, and it's delicious. Terribly bad for you, but wonderful.
Now, back on the topic of haggis. What is haggis? Can you explain to them, please?
Haggis is, I think they make it a little differently now, but traditionally it's sheep's stomach lining stuffed full of sheep parts, and it's got some oatmeal and spices and stuff in it. It's the consistency is like a gritty mashed potatoes, I suppose. It just sounds vile, but it's really delicious, to me at least. I think these days, I don't know that they use the sheep's stomach lining these days most of the time. I'm sure there's some places that do it the authentic way, but it's more of a plastic now that they boil it. You boil it in, like a big thing, and then you cut it open, and you should try it. Just don't think too much about how I just described it. Just don't think about that and try it, and the taste itself is really good.
Okay. What kinds of foods should the ambassadors try while in Scotland?
Well, we've covered fish and chips, candy. Seafood in general is pretty good, I think. You should be safe with that. I'm trying to think what else I go for when I go home. Definitely a good fry up in the morning, and make sure you get black pudding. You know what that is? It's like a blood pudding. Black pudding, it's like a sausage casing. It's got blood, mainly, I think. Oh, it all sounds so bad, but like it gets cut in slices and it gets fried up with bacon and sausages and tomatoes, and then you'll have baked beans, Heinz baked beans, the only real proper baked beans to have, and fried eggs. So a nice healthy breakfast. Just make sure you try that while you're there.
Okay. What was your favorite place to go in the place you were born? What's the town called?
The place I grew up, latterly was Strathie, a little village, and there my favorite place to go was to the beach. I spent a lot of time just walking around the beach and the moors. There wasn't really, again, so remote that you could feel completely alone, and I have great memories of just walking around and just singing away to myself or talking to myself and never encountering another person. And beautiful, pristine white beach with just nobody around. So that kind of solitude is something that I feel like these days, I found it to some extent here in some places, but it's pretty much, it's hard to find that again. So I sometimes miss
An
that.
interesting fact about Katie, she's actually an artist, and a very good one. Now, when you first started painting and doing artwork, do you think growing up in Scotland gives you a different perspective on things?
I've always sketched. I didn't start painting until I was in my 30s, so a good bit older. I think that it's funny because I think that the Scottish influence is probably now more that I'm painting because of the colours that I use. I didn't think about that until recently, about how much of Scotland I may have brought into the painting, and I think that the palette is definitely, it's got a lot of greys, a lot of like dramatic skies, a lot of stuff going on in the sky. I guess it looks fairly windswept the way it was when I was growing up, so there must be an influence in there. And also, some of the very dark sea that I have painted on occasion, that's a Scottish looking sea, so it's in there, yeah.
What made you want to move to America?
I watched a lot of American movies growing up, The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, and I got a little bit obsessed with American, actors really, I suppose, at a certain point, and I thought I just liked how, I know it's movies and everything, but American teenagers, it's a whole other thing over here, being a teenager, and I was very jealous of that. And you have things like proms and homecomings, and none of that exists where we are. No such thing. When I left high school, it was a case of going to the principal's office, getting a leavers form. Once I was old enough, you could do that at any point after the age of 16, and just sort of going around each teacher, having the teacher sign it, and they'd like shake their hand, wish you well, and that was that. And you'd leave high school, and there was no pomp and circumstance. There was nothing about it, and they may have changed that. I think there's a lot of things in America over the last 20 years that since I left that they've adopted a few American things back home. So that might not be the same, but that's how it was then, and I definitely felt like it would look like much more fun to be a teenager in America, and it never really left. So that desire to go never faded, even when I was in college. And so the minute I was done with college, before I even graduated, before my graduation ceremony, I did graduate, I just hopped on a plane and came over and didn't come back. Never lived in Scotland again.
I just have something to ask. You didn't have prom?
I know, it's outrageous, isn't it? I feel so glad that my daughters will have a prom over here, because, you know, at the time I only knew what I was missing because of watching the American movies, but we were all in the same boat over there, and I didn't think too much about it. But yeah, no prom, no nothing, just sign your form and off you go. So yeah, you guys really have the teenage thing down. Like, high school's a big deal over here, and I like that about it.
That's really wonderful. Well, thanks for taking the time to be here, Katie. It was a real pleasure and honor.
Thank you for asking me. It was really fun, and you guys will have a great time, I'm sure.
Yay. Thanks for listening. I hope you liked it.
Cheerio!